Hello,
Hello, Utku.
how are you?
I'm all right.
Well, I'm all right too.
Good.
Today, well, for listeners, welcome to our bird series. It's
Here
gonna
we
be
are at Birds
yeah,
Explored.
yeah, the welcome to everybody. Today we are talking about Harpy Eagle. Well, I really like it. So it is just behind of me. I mean the drawing. So
That painting is a famous watercolor done by the American bird artist Louis Agassiz Fuertes. It's done in the late 1800s, I think, and it's a captive bird in the Washington D.C. Zoo. It was a
yeah,
model for that bird. Yeah.
well, it is a famous drawing, I think, and this is a present from Peter to me. I mean, it's very nice. I mean,
It cost me millions of dollars. Yes.
right, that's true. Okay. Today, in this video, we are exploring the Harpy Eagle. The other name is American Harpy Eagle. I don't know. I'm going to ask you why all these kind of different names that he that this bird has. I mean, this is an incredible bird for me. It looks very handsome. So I have short slide series. We are going to talk, and also it has a wide distribution range in South America,
And Central America.
in Central America. But although it has a wide distribution range, I just check it's in vulnerable status based on the IUCN.
Yeah.
So there's something going on, and then they said the habitat destruction.
Yeah.
So so the habitat destruction affects this bird. And yeah, today we just try to dive into the world of these very good birds, majestic birds, and also known royal hawk in Brazil. So another name. So okay, Peter, you are kind of. I mean, I just I just want to say you are the raptor expert to me. So could you please tell me something about this bird? Is there anything special for this bird?
Yeah, well, the Harpy Eagle is one of the most magnificent birds of prey known. It's certainly one of the largest and most powerful of the eagles, with a wingspan of about 6 feet from wingtip to wingtip across the back. Um, yeah, you mentioned the common names, the American Harpy Eagle, and some of the other local or colloquial names. But you know as well as I do about common names. The same bird can have different names, in different regions where people know it as something else. Um, so the Harpy Eagle, the American Harpy Eagle, that's the one we're talking about today. There's also a Guyanese Harpy Eagle. There's another bird that looks a little bit like the Harpy Eagle with a crest, and that's also called the Harpy Eagle, but just locally. But the American Harpy Eagle, Harpia harpidia, is the bird that we're discussing today. Magnificent bird.
Yeah, the magnets. Yeah, I agree. But it, it is the biggest eagle in the world. No,
Well, I kind of I usually don't talk about what's the biggest, what's the smallest in relation, because I don't exactly know. But it also depends on what you're talking about when you say big or large. Do you mean weight? Do you mean wingspan? Do you mean tip of the beak to the tip of the tail? All these things. But it's certainly a very large, heavy, powerful eagle. One of, if not the largest of the forest eagles.
yeah, I ask this question because, well, this bird's diet
Mm,
includes some big mammals.
right.
I
Very
mean,
big. Yeah. Very big mammals.
I'm just thinking the other eagles like golden eagle. So
Hmm.
it's common in Turkey also,
Hmm.
Anatolia. So, but they don't prefer the big mammals.
No, but they can. There's several species of golden eagle, and some are very large, and
Right.
some are smaller. In North America, our golden eagle isn't as large as the ones you have over in Turkey and places like Kazakhstan and Mongolia. They get very, very large over there. Not as large necessarily as the harpies, but they're pretty powerful eagles too. There's also the Verreaux's eagle or the black eagle in Africa, which is
Mm.
a very large, powerful eagle. But also the Marshall eagle in Africa. Some of these very, very large birds. But the harpy is certainly, right up there in terms of its power and its size. Um, certainly among the so-called forest eagles.
Okay. I just want to move to our presentation that we
Yeah.
have here. But before the presentation, I want to ask you the drawing just behind me. Could you
Yeah.
please tell me about the Fuertes?
Yeah. Louis Agassiz Fuertes.
Did I tell you? I mean, did I pronounce correctly Fuertes or Fuertes?
Fuertes.
Okay.
Fuertes. Louis Agassiz Fuertes was a late 19th century, early 20th century bird artist and illustrator. He lived
Right.
up in Ithaca and attended Cornell University. And he was very, very talented from an early age. He could draw birds and other things and paint them beautifully very early on. And he developed that skill over the course of his lifetime. He was taken under the wing of Frank Chapman at the American Museum of Natural History and Elliott Cowes, the most famous ornithologist of the time. And his skills were nurtured by those two ornithologists. And he became a professional bird artist. Some of the most beautiful renditions of birds that anybody's ever seen. Most bird artists are very familiar with him and claim that that he is their favorite, and so on and so forth. Tragically, he was killed in 1927 in an auto accident. He had just returned from Abyssinia in Africa
Oh,
with a
was he
whole
killed?
yeah with a he had a whole portfolio of African birds paintings that he had finished. And in upstate New York, he and his wife were in the car crossing the railroad track, and the train struck the car and killed
No.
Fuertes. Yeah. Yeah, he was in his 50s, I believe. Yeah. And
Sorry.
so,
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry to
yeah,
hear that because well, when I think about the North America, we always know. I mean, Audubon,
right,
important bird artist.
right.
Nobody, well, I'm sure the ornithologist knows this
Oh,
Fuertes,
sure,
but
yeah,
yeah, I don't know the Fuerte. Well, I heard Fuertes when I was in
right,
M&A. I mean, I learned from the department.
right.
But how many bird artists in North? Well, there are lots of bird artists in North America, but kind of Fuertes, Audubon.
Mhm.
Could you please could you please give some examples?
Examples of what exactly? How many there are, or who
Well,
came when?
the famous one, the historically famous one.
Yeah, well, you had Audubon's the one that comes to mind. He he and Fuertes didn't overlap. Um,
Right.
in time. But Audubon was sort of famous in that he wanted to try and illustrate all of America's birds full size, normal size,
Mhm.
and in natural like poses. But anybody that looks at Audubon's paintings knows that they look a little stilted. They're nice, they're beautiful, but Audubon used to run wires through specimens and just paint these wired up birds. When Fuertes came along, it was clear that he was much different than Audubon in his style. Fuertes, if you look at a Fuertes painting, it really looks like the bird itself. There's really not much of Fuertes in there. Um, he really wanted to just get the essence of the bird, and often he did it so well that birds that are camouflaged, that have camouflaged color, streaking, coloration, streaks and spots, very often Fuertes' birds would disappear into his background because they were almost exactly like the natural bird. And Fuertes worked from specimens, study skins, but he worked from the living bird in the field a lot too. So, American bird artists, maybe you'll think of Wilson, but Alexander Wilson, but it's Audubon, Fuertes are really the sort of the pioneers of great bird art. I mean, there's a lot of great bird artists around, but my favorite bird artist is Fuertes, always has been. If you get a
Right.
chance, you might want to look at more of his material. Um,
Okay.
you got the harpy there, but he painted everything. Yeah.
Right. That's yeah. Okay. So also, I just wanna tell our listeners to Dale Dyer. I mean, he's our friend, and
Oh,
he's
sure. Yeah. Well,
he's
yeah.
very
I mean,
very good bird
yeah,
artist.
yeah. Well, maybe we'll have Dale on at some point. Dale certainly
Yes.
knows all about Fuertes. And I thought your question just pertained to the older artists, but
No,
certainly
no, no.
Dale. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking right now the Dale because he's our friend. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Dale Dyer is unquestionably, at least in my opinion, one of uh, the world's finest bird illustrators now who's around now.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good idea to have him here at some point. Okay. Thanks for this introduction, and I think we can move to presentation, and I have a couple of different questions that I want to discuss with you. I mean, just a second. Here is the Harpy Eagle. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful, beautiful picture. So, Peter, I just try to understand the difference between male and female. So this is male.
Well, it may be. The male and the female have a very similar plumage coloration,
Right.
but in the Harpy Eagle, there is a reverse sexual dimorphism. That is, the female is larger than the male. But I only see one bird here, and I don't have anything to compare it against. So it may be a male, it may be a female. If there were another bird there that was the same size, it might be a male. If it was if there's a bird that was larger, it could be male and female and so on. But this is a Harpy Eagle, regardless of its sex. It's a full adult. You can see
Right.
the crest on the back of its head. They can raise that crest when they're angry or they're upset or they're trying to appear more menacing. The feathers on the back of the head go up, and they form this big sort of crown of feathers. It's one of the reasons why Linnaeus, who in 1759 described and named the Harpy Eagle the Harpy, because it reminded him of the ancient stories of the demonic harpies that were kind of frightening. They had these head ornaments, so that's why the bird has the common name Harpy Eagle and the scientific name Harpia, because of Linnaeus naming it for those characteristics. You can see in this photo quite easily, though, how powerful the legs are, and
Oh
the
yes. Oh yes.
you can see the feet are wrapped around that rat. I can tell that this photo is of a captive harpy. It's in some kind of a zoological park because the prey that it has there is a white rat.
Yeah, I couldn't find the information
Yeah,
about this picture, but I think this is
yeah,
male one.
yeah, could
And
be, but it certainly seems to be a captive bird that's being fed a rat.
right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, based
There
on the
are,
information on the website, well, it's a male, but you are right.
yeah.
And also the other thing that I want to underline, well, all the diurnal raptors, females always bigger than males, right?
Um, mm, for the most part, but there are
Is
a
there
few
any
exceptions.
exceptions?
Yeah, well, if you're going to include if you're going to include the New World vultures in the raptors, I mean, if you're going to just put them in there,
Oh, that's
the
true. But
yeah,
the vultures not going. I
right.
mean, not try to get the live prey.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, a lot of people kind of just lump them in with the so-called raptors. Um,
Right.
but I think, as I indicated with the peregrine falcon, it it might always be there to some extent, but it's more obvious in some groups than others.
Hmm.
Like the falcons, again, the females are always much larger. In the accipiters, birds like the goshawks, it's obvious. In the harpy eagles, it's true. In the eagles in general, the forest eagles, the booted eagles, the fish eagles, it is true that the females are generally larger. In some of the other species of diurnal raptors, it's not as noticeable. It's more
Okay.
subtle. Hmm.
Okay. So how about juveniles?
Right. Well, this is interesting, right? Because a lot of these large eagles, regardless of the genus and the species, certainly, there always seems to be a real difference in the juvenile plumage and the adult plumage. And it takes several years for the young birds to start looking like adults. And so what you see here on the left side is an immature harpy eagle. I mean, it's grayish
Yes.
white almost, you know. And so that indicates that it's a young bird. And I'm not exactly sure how long it takes to get the adult plumage, but I would imagine it's a few years. These birds live for a long time. These large raptors can live for a long time. In captivity, if they're well cared for, these birds easily make 30, 40 years old, maybe even more. Um,
Can you give time period? How many years, for example?
well, in the wild, of course, you know, life is a lot harder than if you're in a nice zoological park being fed and cared for.
Right.
So out in nature, the lifespan is usually less. I don't know exactly how long harpy eagles live in the wild, but certainly 20 years is probably not a
Wow.
problem. Yeah,
It's a long time. I
yeah,
mean, it's
might
a lot.
even be longer than that. I just don't know what the records are for the
Right,
wild
right,
birds.
right, right.
But we see here that interesting thing where you have these young eagles that have a completely different plumage than the adults. I also wanted to mention something about their breeding biology because you mentioned that they are kind of widespread. Their range is very vast in
Yes.
South America and Central America, and there are problems with habitat loss. Yeah, look at the range of that bird. It's you know, it's a disjunct range too.
Yes. Yes,
You know,
that's true.
yeah, centered in the rainforests of Brazil, um, and these little populations elsewhere. Um, and so it's widespread, but habitat loss is a problem. In all of these places, there's a lot of activity going on where there's logging, cutting down trees. These birds need big trees to build their big stick nests in. Um, but another part of the problem is that large raptors like this have a very slow reproductive biology. Um, they don't start breeding until they're a few years old. It's different with the different species. And then they may only have one or two young. I think harpy eagles lay two eggs normally, but it takes a long time to get those young raised and out of the nest, and then it takes a long time for those young ones to become sexually mature, a few years. And so, in addition to habitat loss, you've got this bird that isn't rapidly reproducing, making more and more young quickly, like
Wow.
pigeons or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that. Very,
Yeah.
very slow reproductive biology. So that combination of things is not a good one if we want to preserve this bird in nature without having it disappear altogether.
Well, it's interesting information. So this is a surprise here. I'm gonna make some noise.
Ah,
Is it familiar?
yeah, and you wouldn't think that that little noise comes out of that bird, right?
Right, definitely. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
It's great.
yeah, yeah. They have this high squeaky whistle.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this bird is right now is in vulnerable status.
Yeah, I would think so. That seems reasonable because of what I just mentioned in terms of their breeding biology. And I said they usually lay two eggs, but that doesn't always mean that both of the chicks survive. Very often, one of the eggs doesn't hatch, or one of the chicks hatches and then doesn't survive. It's also possible in some of these raptors, all raptors. Very often, if there's a sibling. Uh, there are siblings in the nest. Very often, the larger females, if they're hungry, if they're getting impatient for their parents to bring food, they'll eat their brother. They'll eat their
Wow.
nestling. So, you
Wow.
know, that's possible too. It's well documented, and I don't know about harpy eagles, but I would assume it happens occasionally. Big female nestling eats her little brother if she's hungry.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, one more question to you, because probably, I mean, you know this bird better than me. Is there any unique behavior for this bird species? Do you know anything unique for this species?
Not unique, but kind of interesting. It shares some behaviors with some of these other forest raptors.
Mm,
If you think about a raptor such as a Cooper's hawk or a Harpy eagle, it's in a forest. It's in a dense forest, and it has
mhm,
to fly around through this dense canopy, the rainforest, in pursuit of prey. And so there are a couple of interesting physical adaptations that the harpy has. And that is, it has short, rounded wings. If we were to look at a silhouette of the harpy, you can see that the wings are sort of short. They're not, meaning they're not pointed like a falcon's. They're rounded at the ends, and the tail is very long. And
mm,
this kind of a shape is very useful for any kind of forest bird that has to move through the dense foliage. It allows them to sort of turn quickly, right and left, and go quickly, very fast. The tail acts as a rudder, a very long rudder to allow them to turn. The other thing that's interesting about the harpy eagle and the other diurnal raptors is this supraorbital process. You see this bone over the eye of the eagle. It's sticking out. It makes the bird have a fierce appearance, right? And the thinking is that that helps to reduce the glare from the sun. It's almost like a sun visor, so that the bird doesn't have to deal with getting the sun in its eyes too much in pursuit of prey. And another thing about the harpy eagle, though not unique but interesting, is that the beak is laterally compressed. In other words, it's flattened on the sides.
mhm,
You
mhm.
notice that this bird, you're only seeing one eye, but these harpy eagles have very forward facing vision. The eyes are set kind of forward on the head because they're looking for prey, right? And so the beak would get in the way if it were too wide. So they have this flattened beak, laterally flat to the sides,
Okay,
so it doesn't obstruct their view. Um, and so these are all adaptations for flying in their environment after prey, and to be able to see their prey clearly when they're pursuing it.
great. So, well, people call the harpy eagle a baby snatcher. I mean,
Certainly a baby monkey.
yeah, baby monkey is here. But what do you think about this sentence? So they can, well, sometimes this is just speculation, I know, but it's a
Well, it's interesting.
interesting speculation.
People have talked about eagles in general, not just the harpy eagle, being able to
Right.
snatch, babies. Now, I mean, there's certainly the harpy eagle is certainly powerful enough to dispatch an infant, a human infant. But the question is, there's not too many human infants crawling around in the Brazilian jungle. I mean, just on the ground waiting for a harpy. Most people are taking care of their infants. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's ever happened. It may have happened. There is some evidence that African crowned eagles or ancestors of African crowned eagles certainly killed and ate Australopithecines. Some of our human ancestors when they were smaller.
Right.
There are fossil skulls with holes in them that look like the African crowned eagles, which are very much like the harpy eagles, um, have grabbed and killed those sort of pre-humans. So that's true. But look at the size of the tarsus on that eagle. It's huge. It's
I mean, it's
that
huge
that
and
leg is
it's
as
really
thick.
powerful.
It's as thick as your arm, and
Yes,
the
that's.
hind talon is at least three inches long. I mean,
I mean, this eagle easily destroy our arms, right?
Oh, sure, it could. Yeah, I mean, there are people who have not use them for falconry really, but have captive birds, and they're a handful. But that little primate that it's carrying, that's a small prey item for a harpy. Harpy eagles will catch and kill howler monkeys, and they'll which are big. You know, they weigh a lot. And it's not just that they weigh a lot, but a howler monkey doesn't just let an eagle grab it. It's going to fight and scratch and bite, all these things. Harpies also catch and kill and eat macaws. These huge parrots with these very powerful bills. That's a tough bird to catch and subdue. Harpies also they pull sloths right off the trees.
Well,
Um,
also the habitats that harpy eagle lives
mhm.
probably give them some good opportunity about the prey items.
Yeah, well, they hunt in the canopy. They can certainly hunt beneath the canopy if they want. And yeah, they're capable of taking very large, powerful prey animals.
Right, and also the South America, in the I mean the Amazon forests. I mean, give them some really interesting prey items.
Yeah, it's a wide variety of prey. Yeah, you got
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
yeah the diversity of animal life in general there is pretty vast.
so this is the end slide that we have, but I have one more question for you. Well, it's a kind of philosophy question. So, well, good for you.
I'm all
What can
ears.
we learn about them? Well, from them,
What can we learn from them?
from them. Yeah.
Um, hmm. Yeah, well, I guess what we could learn from them is to kind of make sure that there's enough habitat around for animals like them to continue to exist. Um, I mean, Harpy Eagle isn't going to teach us how to hunt, so we're not going to learn that from
That's
them.
good.
But no, it's a really magnificent bird. I think it's important that people know a little bit about them, and it's important that some organizations have taken it seriously to heart to help preserve habitat, to study them. These large eagles in the forests like that are kind of difficult to study. Hard to get to them. Their nests are hundreds of feet in the trees. You're going to look at the eggs and the young. But over the past few decades, a couple of organizations have studied the harpy eagle and have increased our knowledge about it. And it's certainly the kind of raptor that we don't want to see disappear anytime soon.
Great. Well, thank you, Peter. So I'm sure there are plenty of things that we need to talk about Harpy Eagle, but we finished the 30 minutes almost.
Yeah,
So thanks for this episode, and
sure.
I'll see you next time with
Looking forward
next bird species.
looking forward to it.
Okay. Bye for now.